Welcome to My Life and My Songs. I'm your host, Jimmy Fortune. We've got a fantastic show lined up for you today. We're sitting down with the multi-award-winning singer-songwriter, T.G. Sheppard. T.G., so good to have you here today, buddy. Thank you so much for being here. How have you been, man?
I've been doing great, just trying to get through through the dark year in the past, but it's getting brighter now. But it's good to be here. First of all, I'm excited about your new show.
Well, thank you for being my first guest.
People are going to love you on this show.
Well, you're going to go down in history as being my first guest there. So,
okay.
So we're just here to have some fun, man, and I'm so glad to have you. But you figured out at an early age that music was more than just a hobby. Now, how did all that happen for you?
Well, I was raised in a musical family. My mom was a gospel singer and piano teacher, and she would teach every kid in school in the afternoons after school piano. And so growing up with music in the house, I always knew that music had to be my life because I loved to hear the melodies coming through the air in our home, whether it was gospel music or just piano being played by kids learning how to play. So I always knew at a very early age, being raised in a musical home, I wanted to have music as my life.
Well, I always refer to you when I talk about you as the world's most interesting man. You know, some of the stories that you tell me, and we've sat down and talked because we go back a long ways, and we sat down to I remember sitting down to lunch with you one time, and you started telling me stories about things, and I'm sitting here going, my mind is like, what in the world, did this really happen? And you know, I checked it out, and it really did happen. But you were with Elvis at an early age in your life. How did all that go about? I
was a runaway at the age of 15 to chase this dream that God has let me catch, an incredible dream that I caught.
Wow.
I hitchhiked to Memphis, and late one night at a roller rink, I'm there, and they're closing the rink, or at least I thought they were, and the lights had been cut out, and a couple of Cadillacs pull up, and Elvis gets out from behind the wheel of the lead car and walks right over to me, Jimmy, and he says, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, they're closing the rink down." He said, "Oh, no, they're opening it up for me." He said, "We're playing a little game in here called Kill, and it's football on skates, and I'm a man short on my team. Will you come in and skate with us?" And I'm looking around going, you talking to me?
Yeah, I know.
I went in there and skated for 5 hours. We went to Graceland after that and had the famous peanut butter and banana sandwich. And that was the start of a friendship that altered and changed my life forever.
Well, you know, I ran away from home at 16, and
Really?
got to the end of the yard, and supper time was ready. My stomach was hurting me because I was hungry, and I turned around and went right back in the house.
You were smart.
But you also did so many things. You wound up with RCA Records, and how was that transition for you?
Well, I tried to make it as an artist, you know, and when I didn't think I was going to be able to fulfill my dream as an artist, I thought I would live my dream through the eyes of other singers. So I started promoting the careers of people on RCA. I was hired by RCA, and I got a chance to travel and really live my dream standing in the wings on stage of some of the great performers like Waylon and Elvis and John Denver, and you know, I would even help bring John to RCA with this contract.
Tell me that story about John. You told me that before, but John.
Well,
Denver.
John was a great songwriter, but he was playing in a bar in New Orleans when I heard him, and I stepped in one night and I said, "Man, did you write all those songs?" He said, "Yeah."
Wow.
I said, "You are a hit artist." So I called up the A&R guy the main guy at RCA, and said, "I'm in New Orleans. I just heard an act that's incredible." And so lo and behold, we signed John to a contract at RCA, and then he just took off like a skyrocket. I mean, so quick.
He's one of my all-time favorites anyway.
Great
and
songwriter.
To find out that you had something to do with all that, and he started, you know, that's just incredible, because I've always done a lot of John Denver songs in my life, and just to know that you knew him.
He was very prolific. He's like you as a writer, Jimmy. When I hear a song that you have written, it is poetry. It is so prolific. And I'll never forget the night you were at my house and you played me a song that had to be, when we were filming Larry's
song called On the Other Side.
On the Other Side. You played it for me in my kitchen, and I absolutely, my wife Kelly Lang, I just couldn't believe the song I was hearing, and lo and behold, it became such a huge hit for you. But John was a prolific writer, just like you. John Denver was. And,
well, speaking of that, I mean, you're a prolific writer yourself. I mean, you've had 21 number one songs,
Yeah,
right?
I've been fortunate.
And you've co-written, how many of those did you co-write? Yeah.
Well, my second number one was Trying to Beat the Morning Home, and I wrote that with a few other people. I mean, nothing like what you've done, you know,
I
with
wouldn't
writing.
say that now.
I've never been like a writer per se. I've always been more of a performer. I leave the writing up to the tunesmiths and to the masters like you who sit and write constantly. But I have known the feeling of having co-written a number one song, which, you know, it's all I ever wanted to do, was to know that feeling.
So what do you think makes a hit song? Now, do you pick the song? Did you pick the songs for your records, or did somebody else pick them for you?
Yeah. I think what makes a hit song and what makes careers for artists are songs that people can identify with. It hits you here, where you live.
Right.
Either, and it can be any type of song, but if it's a song that people can relate to, I think that's where the big records come from. But with me, what has to hook me first is that melody, that tune that I catch myself whistling or humming, maybe before I ever record the song. Then I know something's there because it's going in my mind, that melody. And that's what we've gotten away from in country music in the last few years. We've gotten away from the stories and the melodies.
Right.
And they're coming back now. But you've always been able to incorporate melodies in your great stories.
Well, usually, like with me, I always said my voice brought me to the table, but then the songwriting came later on. I never had written a song, and I think all these God things that happen in your life, you know, sometimes that you can't explain. And again, it came with a melody to me, the melody for Elizabeth.
That first one you did write. Gosh.
Well,
Elizabeth. Oh, my gosh.
That's the only way you can explain it, is through God things. We'll be right back with more My Life, My Songs, right here after this. Welcome back to My Life, My Songs. You know, you fascinating story. You wound up being the national spokesperson for Folgers Coffee.
Yeah.
Now, tell the people
Well,
how that came
I got
about.
into racing many years ago, NASCAR, and of course, country music and NASCAR kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
And so I became the spokesperson for Folgers Coffee and was involved in the original recording of the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. I was very honored to be involved with that song and have my own NASCAR team. So yeah, I think any time that a corporate sponsor that big is able to have a marriage with you publicly, it really propels the career. So wonderful things happened after I got involved with Folgers Coffee. We went from number 3 coffee in the country to the number 1 coffee because of racing and because of the Waking Up tour that we did it was the Judds farewell tour. And on that tour headliners was the Judds, Garth Brooks,
Wow.
myself, and Pirates of the Mississippi.
Man.
And so to be out there doing the Folgers tour was something. So that was kind of a special historical event.
Well, I love to sit down and hear your stories. I hope you're going to write a book one day.
I am if I can use your writer.
I do have someone, Dave Clark, who's helping me write my book. We've been 4 years into it now, but because of me and because of my schedule. But yeah, you need to write a book because all the stories and things that you've had happen to you, and it's amazing. You have an amazing career.
Well, my wife Kelly calls me the real Forrest Gump. She says you were at places in musical history that you shouldn't have been there,
Right.
but for some reason you were there.
Yeah.
So she calls me the real Forrest Gump.
Well, I won't tell you what my wife calls me, but anyway, we're gonna have Kelly on the show too, and I'm so excited about that.
Yeah.
But she's a wonderful person. I was going to ask you, how do y'all maintain that, back
Respect.
and forth? Yeah, because you're in the business, she's in the business, and I know that's got to be hard sometimes.
We have a respect for each other's talent, and I support her totally in whatever she wants to do musically, and she does the same with me. It's wonderful to come in off the road. I mean, we do dates together on the road, but then when I go on the road or she goes on the road, it's wonderful to come home to someone you have married that understands what you do for a living. she'll ask me how it went, and I can tell her something that might have happened on stage. She knows exactly what I'm talking about because she stood there.
Right.
So it's a wonderful blessing to be married to someone who understands and respects what you do.
I know what you're saying. My wife Nina does she's totally opposite from me. She handles all the business and all the booking and all the publicity, everything. She handles everything, and so and I'm on stage. I'm doing my thing.
Yeah.
So she takes care of my weaknesses, and I have plenty of them. But if it wasn't for her, I couldn't do this.
Well, you got a great one in Nina. We all love her.
That's for sure.
Yes,
But,
we do.